Forest is a very beautiful forest about 70 kilometers west of Hyderabad. The topology there, it's got plateaus, valleys, hillocks and little streams that makes it even more beautiful. Now, this forest has been continuously being degraded and disappearing because of attacks from various groups. One is the firewood collectors, second is the cattle grazers, but more importantly the shikaris who go and hunt deer there, and lastly, the most dangerous of all, the real estate developers around the forest. So the forest has been continuously degraded, and it's part of it is actually disappearing. We made several complaints to protect the forest, to the forest department, to fence it and compound wall and cordon it off, but they didn't have the budget, they didn't do it. They did dig some trenches to protect the forest, but that was not enough. To make matters worse, the previous TRS government actually laid a road right through the forest, and then the destruction became even at a larger scale. Instead of small firewood collectors for using the firewood for cooking, people were coming in tractors and harvesting timber for literally commercial purposes. So the degradation of the forest increased rapidly over the last 10 years after they put the road. I think not 10 years, about 8 years after they put the road. But now the naval radar station is coming, the low frequency naval radar station is coming. There's a lot of protests. And if you look at these protesters or the activists who they're talking about climate change, protecting the green cover, protecting the wildlife, and also they're talking about the radiation harming the health of the nearby villages. Let's really look into it. Firstly, the naval radar station is a low frequency radar station which is used to detect submarines thousands of kilometers away. Not detect so much as communicate with the submarines. Thousands of kilometers away. It can send a signal from here to the submarines, and it is used for very important for our national security. While that being the case, let's examine whether it will destroy the environment or whether it, what the activists are telling is really true. By the way, there's also a very beautiful Shiva temple there with huge majestic banyan trees with a huge sacred pond in the middle. So all that. So the activists are telling this this temple is going to be cut off. Various concerns they have. Let's really see what's true. Number one, if it is left as it is without a compound wall or fence, the forest will disappear in 10 years. There's going to be real estate development all around, and slowly they'll start encroaching. So if the Navy radar station comes, there will be a compound wall around. It will prevent the shikaris from hunting the deer. It will prevent the people collecting firewood. Actually, poor people stopped collecting firewood because pretty much all of them are using LPG gas stoves. It is the people coming on tractors and harvesting timber that will go, and real estate mafia or real estate developers, they will not be allowed to develop, and the villages also graze cattle and sheep in there. That also will be in a controlled manner. So it will actually protect the forest. But they are saying, what's the point of protecting a barren land, because the Navy radar is going to cut down all the trees. And they're saying 1.93 lakh trees are firstly they told 12 lakh trees will be cut down. Actually there are no 12 lakh trees in there. The total number of trees are 1.93 lakhs, and they are all going to be cut down. It's going to be leveled flat, and they'll put an antenna. That is also not the case. In reality, only 1,000 to 2,000 trees will be cut down, because I know about this antenna. This antenna consists of tiny tall towers, very tall towers with wires hanging from there, and the footprint of each tower is not more than 300 square feet. And how many trees will 300 square feet have? And yes, there's not one tower, there will be an array of towers, 10, 20 towers, and each one will have a footprint of 300-400 square feet, and there will be wires tethered to it. So the total number of trees, probably each tower will you'll have to cut down about 20 trees. If there are 10 towers, maybe 200, or if there are 15 or 20, there will be 300 or 400 trees will be cut down. But it's not just 300 or 400 for the tower. There will be support services, there will be a building, there will be a computers, there will be staff. For them, there will be buildings. That another 500-600. So it won't be more than 1,000 or at the most 1,500 trees will be cut off. So what the activists are telling are totally wrong. It's only a few thousand or 1,000 or so trees that are going to be cut off. The activists are also telling this is the birthplace of Musi and the river that flows through Hyderabad. They do not know the topology of the area. This is west sloping, whereas Musi flows from west to east. So not a single drop of water that falls in this Damagundam actually goes into Musi. It all goes into a river called Kagna. And this Kagna river goes westward, and Musi flows eastward from Anantagiri. So they are wrong about this. The temple, nobody is touching the temple or the banyan trees, majestic banyan tree and temple. In fact, the temple will be actually protected, and it will actually be more beautiful than before. Now, as for the forest, the number of trees that are being cut, whether it's 1,000 or 2,000, twice the number or 10 times the number will be planted in the forest and in the surrounding area. So it will be more green. But most importantly, since it will be fenced off with a fence and a compound wall, not only it will protect that existing 99% of the trees, it will enhance it. So not only the ecology or the environment will be protected, it will actually enhance it. And if you see, a forest which is fenced is much more greener than a forest that's not fenced. So the activists have vested interest, whether it's real estate or hunting or timberwood or whatever the case may be. To make matters worse, some political parties are funding. And this is one rare example of a state government and central government cooperating and doing something for the nation. And why I'll tell you this is very important for the nation. This, as I told you, is a low frequency radar station which can communicate, which can send signals rather. It's not a two-way communication, which can communicate with submarines thousands of kilometers away, and probably tens of thousands. I mean, probably not just the Indian Ocean, West Bengal, Bay of Bengal, and the Arabian Sea. It can probably go to Australia and past Africa. It can send signals. And these signals can be shared with friendly nations. And this is important not only for our national security, it is probably important for world peace also. And the reason why this is extremely important at this juncture for India is, you might have already noticed that we are planning to buy 2 more nuclear submarines, and we as a nation, a peace-loving nation, we have a no first use policy on nuclear weapons, which means we will never use, no matter how bad the situation is, we will never be the first to use a nuclear bomb. But if someone attacks us, we will retaliate with the second use of nuclear weapon. And nuclear weapons can be launched in 3 ways. One is it can be airdropped, the olden ways, or it can be sent by a missile from a land-based missile, or it can send through submarine, nuclear submarine, because that is most difficult for the enemy to target, because it's not a fixed location, it's roaming all around in various oceans and seas. And for second use, we should be able to communicate with them, send the signal. So it is that important. But the last one, what they are talking about is, radiation. Now, radiation from high frequency, you remember when cell phones first came, cell towers came, they told radiations will affect them and it's a health hazard. On this, we have done a lot of studies. Their studies are available on the internet and various journals published. OSHA, occupational safety hazard, various journals are published. And there is no chance of any health hazard for people in that area. And the radiation is measured in SAR, specific absorption rate. And specific absorption rate, the units of this VLF radiation to measure any effect on the body, is the unit is watts per kilogram weight of the body. And all studies showed anything less than 4 watts per kilogram weight has no effect. But in this case, very, very low radiation is 0.1 watt per kilogram weight. But in this case, it's a 1 megawatt. That's a 1 million watt radiation. But the 1 million watt radiation 1 kilometer away is spread over a 6 million square meter surface area, and a profile of a normal human being is assumed to be 1 square meter. If you are 6 feet tall and half meter wide, the amount of radiation that will pass through is 0.16 for the whole body. And if average body weight is 50 kilograms, then the maximum average radiation that will pass through, not absorbed, pass through will be 0.0033, and absorbed will be even 1/10 of that. So it is negligible. There is absolutely no studies, even at 4 watts there is no study, even at 0.0003 watts per kilogram weight. So radiation, again, it's a false propaganda, and there is no harm. Yes, there are some studies of people directly working on the wire, the Navy personnel, the Army and the Air Force personnel, some of them who are working there, maybe they are, but definitely not the surrounding villages. So I don't think we should be concerned about. But leave all this calculation aside. My belief is in my country, and my country will not harm our own people. My belief is in my government. My belief definitely is in Prime Minister Modi, not some activist being influenced by vested interest people either locally or abroad. So this naval station is good for the country, the national security. It does not harm the environment. In fact, it will enhance the environment, and there is no radiation and health impact. And I'm happy it's in my constituency, and is going to be inaugurated tomorrow. The foundation stone is going to be laid tomorrow, and India will take another step forward. There will be one of its kind in the world, one of the